we think a lot of this is starting with marijuana and other drugs too.
The truth is that every reefer is loaded with immorality and bestial perversions, brutality, murder, sex crimes, insanity, or suicide.
Should you ever be confronted with the temptation of taking that first puff of a marijuana cigarette, don't do it.
Hello friends, welcome to another Vegematic Under the Radar. I'm a little bit down lately in the state of not only our world, but on a personal level, seeing it's so hard for me to deal with witnessing cruelty. And it's part of human nature that I don't understand, and I never have, is why any human would want to inflict suffering on another life form of any kind. Quite a week, quite a bunch of staff turnover at the Trumporium there in Washington. Isn't he renaming the White House the Trumporium? I thought I heard that somewhere. I could be wrong. So, I guess, Tillerson's gone, replaced with Mike Pompeo. So, my understanding of this, from some of the reading I've done, that the reason Trump fired Tillerson was because Trump wants war with Iran. And it's part of the greater destabilization of things. And also, if you think about it, with Mueller bearing down on the orange turd, he's like a cornered rat. So he's going, what can he do? What can he do? He can invoke the War Powers Act if there's a war, and he can shut down the Mueller investigation like nothing. He'll assume supreme executive power. And so we are all completely screwed any which way you look at it. The next few years are going to be years of tremendous environmental destruction, probably nuclear explosions and wars and things. I would not put that past him, because when somebody that's psychopathic is cornered like Trump is, then he's going to lash out in all directions, and he won't care if millions die just to protect his own ass. That's the type of leader Herr Trump is. UAE, the United Arab Emirates, lobbied to get rid of Tillerson, who attempted to broker an end to the blockade of Qatar. Now, the UAE was also involved in a January 2017 meeting between Eric Prince and Kirill Dmitriev, who manages a 10 billion sovereign wealth fund for the Russians. So we got all kinds of machinations going on under the radar. And where we're headed, God only knows. It's not looking good. We got to try and maintain some kind of normalcy about our lives and try and stay sane so that we can still continue to speak out as things are closed down, as the freedom of speech is shut down, as the internet is shut down. It's easy to feel totally hopeless and give up, but I can't. I've got to speak out so that one day, when all this shit, if it ever blows over, without destroying human life on Earth, I can say I at least tried to do the right thing. I can't throw up my hands and say I do nothing. Well, at least I'm making these silly little videos that nobody watches. The other thing I wanted to say is, having enjoyed Corona beer for several years, I was distressed to find out that the city of Mexicali in Mexico are facing off with American multinational Constellation Brands over water. And Constellation Brands makes Corona and a couple of other Mexican sounding beers. So no more Corona for me, and I urge everybody to boycott Corona. The people of Mexicali Resist have been organizing for over a year to protect public water rights. They are calling for an organized boycott of Constellation brands, and I urge you to join the boycott and drink some other kind of fermented malt beverage. So now National Security Advisor for Herr Trump is John Bolton, probably the biggest warmonger ever in the history of the world, perhaps. We're going off the deep end. The world's going off the deep end. John Bolton and his big mustache. Who wears a mustache anymore? I had one in the 70s the other day. They looked awful. And his looks like he's you know, trying out for an extra in some spaghetti western or something. But he's Bolton. He's John Bolton. And he's going to make sure that he gets his wars. How can anybody be eager for war? It takes a particular perverted mindset to be able to look at life and humans and nature and say, let's blow the shit out of it. It takes a certain mindset. It takes a certain amount of coldness, of unbelievable narcissism, unbelievable just disconnect from life itself. These people aren't human. They can't be human. They can't have human emotions. And why is it that the garbage always floats to the top? The worst possible people in the most powerful positions, that's what we end up with. And why is it that these loudmouth blowhards get people to listen to them? We're not interested in reasonable, intelligent human beings leading us, perhaps appealing to our better nature. No, we prefer blowhards in every way possible. We love loudmouths and blowhards. I was involved in music for a long time in my life, and what I noticed is the blowhards always seemed to get all the attention because they screamed and ranted. Even if they didn't have much talent, they had a loud voice and they were willing to bully. So why is it that we allow bullies to run wild? Melanoma Trump was actually talking about cyberbullying. And she's with that clown. I mean, you know, she is the first hooker, so I suppose we should give her some slack. And it's not her fault. Well, it is, because she must really, yeah. I mean, she hit the jackpot when she hit that, right? Yeah. Can you imagine all the money in the world? Could all the money in the world make up for melanoma waking up beside that thing? That horrible, evil man? Some people sell their souls, and they sell it so cheaply. Material goods. I have a gold toilet, so I'm better than you. They love to put people in categories, you know? They love to put people in categories. And this person's good, this person's no good. And it's all about genetics. It's fuck all to do with genetics. How else would you explain idiot savants? You know, people that Nazis would kill at birth because they're defective. None of us knows how valuable each of us is and what contributions we can possibly make to this dying blue dot that we all have something called a life on. If I didn't believe in an afterlife, I don't think that I could go on. I think I would be too discouraged. And somehow there's a part of me that knows that inside, at the end of all things, justice will prevail. Evil will eventually eat itself, consume itself, just like capitalism, greed, it all eats itself. Evil feeds on itself, so eventually there's nothing left to feed on, and it'll be gone. We can only hope. I never wanted to have power over other people, and I have a hard time understanding those that do. Perhaps because I recognize us all as individual creatures with the same basic needs. We're not that different from each other. All these manufactured differences to keep us at each other's throats, they work well. They work well. And I'm just tired. I can't even argue with trolls anymore without getting depressed. Because what's the point? You know that you can't change ignorance. That I guess the worst type of ignorance is that which those who do not recognize themselves as ignorant, but think that they're a lot smarter than they are, and that goes for 90% of the business school population, or the doctors, or any of the traditional people that we supposedly look up to in our culture. I think that we all want to be recognized by our peers, at least, and have some sort of respect for the work that we do, whether or not the world finds that work worthwhile. I don't really care much whether the world finds what I do or anybody else does worthwhile. And if you've left me a message on my Google Plus page, I'm really sorry. I just read it yesterday. I don't really go onto my profile much in Google Plus. I tend to just go there for the articles. But there were some really nice things that people said to me. And I just want to acknowledge that when I did get around to reading it, I was truly touched by some of the nice things people were saying. And perhaps I focus on the dark side, and that's what my dear wife is always saying. Well, why do you view everything through such a negative lens? I can't help it, really. I'm a realist, and being a realist involves taking notice of not being able to shut myself up in a little bubble and pretend that everything's okay when I know it isn't. When I know things are terrible, and when I know that we're heading towards a brick wall. There's so many things wrong. And as a culture, we've dug ourselves in so deep that there's no digging out. There's no way out. We have piled shit onto the earth to the point beyond its carrying capacity. There's no discussion about it. There's zero, oh, it's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And you've had that drilled into your head for so many damn years that there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We have to pollute the earth. We have to destroy everything in our path because economic growth is more important than anything. Corporations growing into monsters that devour everything, devour our humanity, devour our natural habitat, devour everything in their path. We love it. Just give us a few jobs and pat us on the head and we'll feel fine. And if there is a force for total evil in the universe, it's got to be the human ego. The destructive human ego whose insatiable demands require killing the real person inside, killing compassion, and replacing it with some kind of worship of self. So are you allowed to have your message? Are you allowed to? I mean, the internet is being closed down. I have people that watch this channel that eagerly await each episode, to my amazement. And yet the channel never grows. I will get the odd sub here and there, but it does seem like I'm shadow banned. Swami Amala, I woman who has subscribed to me for a couple of years just informed me that none of my videos show up in her feeds. And I've heard that over and over and over again. And I've got to question why. What kind of a threat does this little guy's opinion, somebody who has absolutely no influence, what kind of a threat am I? Are we so afraid of free speech and anti-corporate sentiment that they will go to great lengths to prevent the other side of the story from being told? It's just like the recommendations that I get in YouTube. And I've said this before, and it's constantly amazing to me. The recommendations that are sent to me are almost all right-wing stuff, even though I've never watched a single video of Fox News. But every single time I go into my recommendations, there it is, Fox News Live, a big ugly picture of Donald Trump there that makes me want to lose my breakfast. And doesn't matter how many times I click on that I'm not interested and I'm not interested in this channel, doesn't matter. You will get this in your feed. Do you think you're going to make me watch it that way? Why? Why? What is this shit? Algorithmically controlled to feed me some garbage that you want me to see? If you're so good with algorithms, perhaps you can check my history and look at what I watch. YouTube. It's been allowed to get way too large. Companies were not designed to get large enough to consume the world, but just the constant giving away of people's possessions, people's lives to corporations. This goes on all the time. I can't tell you how many times in my life I have seen governments bending over backwards to get some sort of industrial plant going here, and we'll give you tax breaks and give you taxpayer money to provide a few lousy jobs, and then the company closes down and moves to Mexico as soon as it's convenient. They don't pay back that taxpayer-funded zero-interest loan, or it's crazy. It's crazy. It's just gotten out of control, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse, so that we've handed over complete sovereignty over our lives. We have handed it over to corporations and billionaires. Congratulations. But at least I have my small audience, whom I have a great deal of love and respect for. And it gives me a chance to actually say what's on my mind and not keep it inside, because I got no one to talk to about this stuff. Most people don't want to hear it. They want to go on with their lives. They want to narrow their focus down so much that when the shit hits the fan, they're not going to have a clue, because they're not even expecting it. They're not expecting the disasters that are coming in the next few years. Everything's fine. Just got my giant big screen TV on the wall and my Netflix, and I got my 6-pack of beer. As long as you don't try and take my gun away. It's nuts. It's nuts. And no wonder we're creating psychopaths. And look at society. Look at, there was a time when school kids didn't gun each other down. The worst thing that ever happened when I was in high school, the worst thing I ever witnessed was somebody pulling a kitchen knife on somebody. He didn't use it, but that was like horrifying, unbelievable. That is just off the charts. You know, kids are trying to get an education while they're being slaughtered, mowed down like prairie wheat on a spring day. And then these people that dare to say that these kids have a nerve taking my guns away. Only an idiot needs that kind of weaponry. Why? I just have to keep going on and keep posting these videos that very few people will ever see. Keep being frustrated time after time. I'm so tired of life. You know, maybe when you get old you see things through a different lens. And life isn't so appealing anymore. Nothing about life is appealing. You lose pleasure that you used to have in things. Gone. Anhedonia. That's the state of many of us. You can't feel pleasure anymore because the world's so fucked. There's an inability to feel pleasure in anything. I still feel some pleasure in a beautiful sunset where I can laugh at small animals. Things like that give me pleasure. The things that I did in my youth too, that meant everything to me, art and music, and they mean nothing anymore. Nothing. It's empty. It's meaningless. It's pointless. So what do we have to look forward to? The upcoming war with Iran. You heard it here first. It will probably begin within the next month or two. Already I heard that the US has charged 9 Iranians in a supposed massive hacking scheme. And this is more the build up towards war that we're going to see in the next little while. Trump isn't going away. Much as I hate to say it, he's not going away. He is going to continue to consolidate power, and the madman will destroy the earth. Well, on that cheery note, I'll just bid you all adieu, and thanks for watching. If you can, if you can share it and maybe help me get 1 or 2 more subs, that would be great. If you haven't subscribed, it really doesn't cost anything, and you just have to hit the button. That's it. That's all I ask. You know, get me to 1,000 for God's sakes, eh? Anyway, it's all for today. I'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Look after each other. Try and look after this planet, animals, everything.